What do you do when you've only got one half of a song written? If you're Randy Bachman of the Guess Who, you hit up fellow band member Burton Cummings and ask if he just happens to have half of a song written in the same key as yours. In fairness to Bachman, he felt his song was complete when he presented it to RCA Records and Cummings, but they felt it needed more, and Cummings had just the second half of a song that would complete it. Despite this decision, only Bachman's half of the track appears as the B-side for the Guess Who's iconic single, American Woman. The titular track for the band's 1970 studio album reached the top of the Billboard Hot 100 and the RPM magazine charts and stayed there for 3 weeks. Naturally, this meant the B-side got significant play as well, enough to have it reach number 39 on Cashbox, a chart that ranks sides of singles independently. Even being attached to perhaps the most well-known Guess Who song wasn't enough to stop the band from stitching Bachman and Cummings songs together for the album. 2 titles, united by a slash, graced the 4th track spot on the band's 6th album. The back half, a sort of ode to drug dealers and getting high as fuck to deal with the pain of existence. The front half, a relationship on the rocks tale inspired by a real-life experience. Randy told me that the inspiration for writing this song came to him from an experience he had walking in downtown Berkeley, California. Randy was walking and talking with a bandmate when he looked up and saw 4 big biker guys walking on the same sidewalk approaching them. Randy made up his mind to cross the street rather than confront the bikers. Then he heard the skidding of car tires. Just as Randy was stepping off the sidewalk, the car came to a skidding stop, and a biker lady got out of the car, walked over to one of the bikers, and engaged in a heated conversation with him. When the argument ended, the biker lady walked back to the car, opened the door, turned around, then shouted to the biker, "One more thing, honey, you're not getting any sugar tonight," indicating he was not going to get any sex that night from her. The car took off, Randy crossed the street, went back to his hotel, and started writing the song based on that experience, said John Prescio, former security for the Guess Who. That's right, we're talking No Sugar Tonight / New Mother Nature by the Guess Who on Cover Me.
No sugar tonight in my coffee, no sugar tonight in my tea, no sugar to stand beside me. It's the new Mother Nature taking over. It's the new splendid lady come to call.
That's right, it's Cover Me, the only podcast that compares famous songs to their many cover versions to find out which one is in my tea. I'm your host, as always, The Snake, joined by my Jocko co-host,
Alex Mildenberger. Jocko Alex Mildenberger here to tell you some things about life, probably.
Yeah, what? Is he...
Who is Jocko? Some guy, I think. That's my understanding of Jocko.
Jocko says yes, dude, and I believe him. That's all I know.
There's not much about this Jocko character. I've always wondered what they said there, because it just sounds like syllables.
It sounds, yes, and I believe him.
Exactly, it could be anything.
It's like, okay, sure, yeah. Yeah, dude, what's new?
What's new?
Poppin'?
What's popping? Life's happening. Fatima and I went out to Lake Louise on the weekend. Very exciting time.
Hell yeah. Very excited. Was it frozen over?
It was not frozen over. There were people out on the lake on boats, which we talked about doing, but also it was cold and probably colder on the water, so we never did it.
Yeah, definitely. The further you get away from like trees and mountains.
Yeah, it had snowed, so like there was snow all over the ground. And it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But I got a nice nice walk through the woods between Lake Louise, the lake itself, and then the Lake Louise village. It's a nice little walk.
Okay.
Yeah. That was very nice.
Now, when I was out in Lake Louise, probably it was 6 or 7 years ago now, in the parking lot area near the lake, just big fucking crows. Were there any big ass birds in your travels?
I thought I saw one. I thought it was like a raven or something.
It could have been a raven.
But it was a big blackbird. Yeah.
Ravens are pretty easy to spot though, because they will say nevermore.
They will quoth that.
They'll quote that all the fucking time, man.
Yeah. So you were out in Lake Louise a few years back. Was that just a pleasure trip? I guess I don't know what other reason there would be.
Yeah, it wasn't for business. I'll tell you that. Greta was visiting from Vancouver at the time, but she was like, "Hey, we got to see like Canadian tourism things." I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Like I'd been to Lake Louise probably at some point before that.
Right, I know that's one thing. Like I've probably been here, maybe. Like my parents probably brought us here, and I didn't care because I was like 12.
Yeah, you're just like, I don't fucking give a shit about any of this. Like,
but yeah, I don't remember being out there. But have you ever stayed at one of the like Fairmont hotels, like the Banff Springs or the Chateau Lake Louise?
Don't think so.
I don't think I have
No.
either. But I always see them.
Too rich for my blood.
I'm like, is it worth it? I've heard it's very expensive. That's all I know about it.
Yeah, it's most of what I hear about any attraction. Of course, that was my father's main concern growing up, is how much things cost. But yeah, dude, can't be doing hotels these days.
Yeah.
But the Canadian wilderness, Alex, you're enjoying it, you're exploring it, and today we're exploring the Canadian band, the Guess Who.
Yeah, who we did talk about.
These
Yeah, we talked
Eyes.
about These Eyes.
Yeah, dude.
There's probably a few Guess Who songs we could do. You know, they were reasonably popular. I sometimes forget they were actually like considered part of this like Canadian invasion.
The Canadian invasion.
Which is, we know that because it's on that CD, the like Bachman Cummings songbook.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is a pretty good one. It's got a lot of these. It's got this song on it, I'm pretty sure. I'd be shocked if it wasn't on there. No, it was, because I remember reading the booklet and it talking about, that was the first time I heard this song was actually, I mean, it's obviously two songs, but like that they just had two songs in F sharp and then stuck them together, which is such an amusing way to just like deal with things.
Yeah, but I also think it works.
It does work, and like clearly, like there's the guitar part that plays between, like at the start and then in between them, like there's connective tissue, right?
Yeah, both like musically and I think even lyrically they managed to kind of stitch it. It's not like the tightest, but I think there's a loose enough thread that ties it together.
So like once they put them together, like it works, but it is kind of funny that there's two. I mean, there's also, it's called a medley, right?
Yeah.
There's a Jethro Tull song that I don't know. It's like, it's One White Duck, and then like 0 to the 10th power equals nothing at all. Like it's two songs that quite frankly could just be called One White Duck, Nothing at All. I don't know why they put like the mathematics in there.
Right. It's just some prog rock bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Get some math involved.
And that one is also a medley where it's kind of two songs that fit together fairly well when you listen to them together. But yeah, it's weird to think that like you tie your songs together that closely. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine them separately, even though that's what most of the covers are.
Yeah, coming in this week, I was shocked after doing my own research and like listening to the song, being like, oh yeah, these do actually work as one song.
Yeah.
And then all of the covers bar one are just No Sugar Tonight.
Yeah, and then there's like one cover of New Mother Nature, which is shockingly low. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
It's very interesting, but I guess some of that comes from with the odd choice to just have No Sugar Tonight as the B-side to American Woman.
Yeah, which I don't understand that. I mean, the song's not that long, right? So
yeah, it's like
throw them both
2
together.
minutes, 2.5.
And American Woman is, like you said, probably their most popular song. Certainly the one that's like penetrated the culture the most.
Yeah, it's at the top of Tidal right now for most listened to. It is funny because it's the one I ignore constantly, probably because I've heard it enough in my life.
Absolutely.
But like it is their hit. Like as much as they have other hits, These Eyes, No Sugar Tonight is their second most popular on Tidal right now. Hand Me Down World, No Time. Like these guys have hits.
Yeah, those are some big ones. Even like I was listening to the American Woman album. I know like some of the songs, it's like, yes, I know this song so well. Like this is classic rock radio staple, at least in Canada. And then a bunch of stuff I have never, ever heard of, like at all. But it's similar because like Hand Me Down World, another one of their albums, you lent me that, right?
Yeah, I
believe
so.
You did. And because we talked about some of the songs on there, and there's like some really good album tracks on that one. So they got some good album tracks too.
They got some good album tracks. I guess American Woman probably just by right of having American in the title gave them that cross-country like play.
I think so. I don't know if it... And obviously like it ended up getting covered by Lenny Kravitz, and that's also a big hit.
Right.
That I've probably heard that one more often lately for some reason.
Yeah. That's the way the radio
That's the way
goes
the radio
sometimes.
goes, just, more recent song. But I do remember it was kind of an era of like defining, at least for me, I don't know if you had this experience, like in elementary school, there was like this Canadian identity forming. And I don't know if it was just early in my life and that's why it was, or if it was because of like a general media attitude at the time, but it felt like we were defining this idea of Canadianness as a lot of it was like, oh, it's not American, So we had like, there's like Rick Mercer, the Rick Mercer report used to always go down to like Buffalo or something. Like he'd go down to the States and like interview Americans or whatever, and it was just like, aren't those Americans so dumb kind of thing, like they don't know about this
publish
thing.
their dumb answers.
Exactly.
What do you know about Canadians? Like, I guess they live in igloos, boss. Look at this fucking idiot.
Yeah, exactly, all that kind of stuff. And like this song was part of that, and American Idiot was part of that as well. Because that was around
an American song, of course, but a theme that we took to, particularly as children in
absolutely
Canada,
so I remember that being like
Americans.
An attitude. I don't know if that was a general cultural attitude or that was just like in...
I mean, even in our media laws, it's always been an emphasis on having as much Canadian content as possible, 70% on your television in order to like maintain the Canadian identity.
And, like, they give those grants, baby.
Yeah, so it is really encouraged to have that there. And then, the offshoots of that are things like the Rick Mercer report, being like, well, we'll define Canadian like identity by dunking on America, who is so like preeminent in all culture in the world.
And it's also kind of funny because we are so similar in so many ways.
Yeah, like so many ways. I mean, like you go down to the States and you're going to notice the differences having like lived in Canada.
Sure, there are differences.
There are differences, and they will make you go like, well, that's fucking crazy. But like, by and large, if you took somebody from like Europe or like any other place in the world and just like had them go to both Canada and the US and didn't tell them when they crossed the border, like they would be like, it's just a different
city. It's pretty
city.
similar. Like there are minor differences.
Pretty much the same.
But I guess when you're trying to assert that identity, you really need to look at like small things, like really subtle differences.
And that's so the Guess Who, a part of that journey by being an actually successful Canadian rock band.
Exactly. And one who didn't like just move to the States immediately after becoming successful.
Yeah, they just hung around here. They broke up and then just continued to be Canadian bands in this area.
Yeah, and I mean, even we did talk about Bachman Turner Overdrive as well, which is like Canadian/American band.
That's right.
Randy Bachman, of course, is on this song. He wrote half of it. So, but they're like still known as like Canadian icons. They're not like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example, but like Canadian who just like, oh, I'm successful, I'll move to LA or whatever.
Yeah, well, like Justin Bieber would be the more modern example. Think about Mike Myers, Canadian, Will Arnett's Canadian, both moved to America. There's tons and tons and tons, like, but to think of them all right now.
We don't need to list them all, but there's a lot of them, because that's the place to be.
Yeah, Howie Mandel, he's Canadian.
But I've always felt that the Guess Who maintains a certain level of Canadian identity in ways that like some groups who just like leave don't.
Yeah, for sure.
Or maybe there's not as much difference now because culture is more like online kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess so. And I think the Guess Who like maybe doesn't get that praise as being like the Canadian band, because that's the Tragically Hip's role.
Right.
Like they're the guys who were Canada and never really broke out of Canada. They had like a couple minor charts in the US, if I'm thinking right. And like Rush also stayed in Canada, but they somehow avoid being like the Canadian band.
I always think of them as still as Canadian, but like they don't have that like in their music as much. Whereas, like, the Guess Who have, like, Running Back to Saskatoon. Like, this is very much a Canadian song.
Yeah. So there's something about this band that comes off as Canadian. My real question is, do you think if No Sugar Tonight wasn't the B-side for American Woman that it would be as popular?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it's a really good song. I think it deserves
I like it. Yeah.
And it's, like, early enough on the album. in a lot of ways, I think it's kind of like almost the epitome of this early, or like, I guess this is early Guess Who, but it's like their what, 7th album or something like that?
6th, but yeah.
So it's not like it's like early, but I know there's later stuff where like Randy Bachman left. So like there's like just Burton Cummings.
Yeah, I believe he leaves, if I read the song facts correct, after this album.
Yeah, I'd believe that.
To get into Mormonism.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, wow. Didn't realize. So then there's like because there's like early Guess Who, which is like just a completely different band basically, because like Burton Cummings hadn't joined yet. And they do like a cover of Shakin' All Over.
Right.
And then like them together. To me, this is kind of the epitome of it, because it's literally them coming together and making a song, which is 2 songs they wrote separately that they just mashed together.
Yeah, it is like peak the Guess Who. Like, this is what they sound like to me when I think about it. And it's a real catchy chorus on No Sugar Tonight. I guess the next question is, which half of this is better, Alex? No Sugar Tonight or New Mother Nature?
I feel like they go so well together. I like both halves. If I had to gun to my head, I'd probably choose New Mother Nature. Mm-hmm. But I think the way they work together, I think, is very good.
Yeah, I think it really stands out in the like final verse they do, where they layer both first verses over each other. Like, these things slot together really well. Coming in this week, I was like, there's no question No Sugar Tonight's the better of the 2 halves. But missing it in all of these cover versions, I was like, you kind of need something to balance out the No Sugar Tonight section. It's just missing without it.
It's very like kind of simple on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a cool way they like build the complexity over the course of the song, even though it's 2 songs really.
2 songs, and both pretty simple in terms of structure. Like, it's not like they're doing any like wild techniques, but just the tone shift from No Sugar Tonight to New Mother Nature, you get a little more of that like 70s sleaze, I think, in the back half.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the instrumentation.
When we get to it, but we're going to talk about some lyrics, dude, which open as thus: lonely feeling deep inside, find a corner where I can hide, silent footsteps crowding me, sudden darkness, but I can see.
I can see. It's very like poetic kind of, right? You know, like it's very spread out, and it's just like describing a situation, but not really. Like, it's not a real corner. It's a metaphor, presumably. You know?
Yeah, the corner is fake, is metaphorical. The footsteps are metaphorical. Even the darkness is metaphorical.
Yeah, like it's dark, but he can see, you know. So like it's about this lonely feeling and wanting to like isolate yourself, kind of. Or maybe just feeling isolated. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty effective. I like the line.
It's very effective. He lays it out, lonely feeling deep inside, like, and then kind of describes what that feeling sounds like metaphorically or feels like. He's like, I need a space to hide because I'm being crowded by things that like aren't even necessarily real. They're more metaphysical than they are physical. And the darkness has surrounded him, but it's kind of because he can see the outcome. Because the "but I can see" ties to the chorus, right?
Right. And then it's funny, the line "No Sugar Tonight" comes from like just something he overheard. And it's like no sex, basically, right? Like,
yeah, it's such a good like origin story of that too, because it's like so often in life, I think people will hear like a random thing said by a stranger, and then that kind of like just lingers in your head for anywhere from like a couple days to a lifetime, where you're like, that person said something strange, where like a Bachman got a chance to actually channel that into something.
Yeah, and like have it become popular and spread around. And then of course going with some of it seems a bit irreverent, right? In my coffee, in my tea, like.
That's funny.
That's a place you put sugar, right? Like.
Yeah.
First listening to it, and having never really thought about what it would mean, there was, of course, a period of time where I was like, so wait, is the sugar cocaine? Is it cocaine? Is it white powder?
I think I always understood it to be sweetness. Kind of, I understood in the sense like, you know, maybe your partner makes coffee or tea for you, but now they're not making it the way you want. There's no sugar in it. So, like, literally, they're not preparing it the way you want. But also, figuratively, they're kind of giving you, like, the snub because they're mad at you. So they know you want the sugar in the coffee and the tea. They're not giving it.
So it's just more of that lonely feeling, that isolated feeling.
Yeah, before we really jump into the chorus, I do want to note Find a Corner Where I Can Hide is interesting because it does tie to the second verse of New Mother Nature, in which he's in a smoke-filled room in a corner basement.
True, there's corners. I don't know what a corner basement is, really.
Is it just a backwards way of saying a basement corner? Like, in the corner of a basement?
I'm trying to think of I'm like a corner lot tends to be larger, so is it a large basement?
Is it larger? I would almost think if it's a corner basement, it's like not a full basement. It's kind of like more of a storage area, so like a little smaller.
It does make sense. Googling corner basement is not helpful.
No. Googling most things these days isn't fucking helpful.
I did a DuckDuckGo search.
Ugh, that's the way to do it.
So I don't know what that means. I do know, so to reference the booklet in the Bachman Cummings songbook album.
Please.
Again, Burton Cummings at one point wrote about how one of the songs was mostly rock and roll gobbledygook, I believe was the quote I remember. I was trying to find it, but I don't seem to have that CD with me right now. I think it's probably in my parents' house.
Damn.
But sometimes my point is you just gotta fill the space.
Yeah,
sometimes it's about syllables, Dick.
You're like, who am I talking to? A guy named Jocko.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a little rock and roll gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's certainly some of that in this. At least I think, especially in New Mother Nature, you can apply that lens.
Yeah. But that's the corner basement. So we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. So we've kind of talked about like the first half of this chorus. No sugar tonight, my coffee. No sugar tonight, my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to run with me. Dot do dot dow dot and do dot dot do dot dow. We scat.
That's fun.
It's good. It's great.
I know Burton Cummings likes to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. In some ways, I was thinking of Burton Cummings this week as a sort of like vocally similar to CCR.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that. Especially, I mean, if you hear him live, especially nowadays, he's a lot like buzzier, whereas back in the 70s, they really had this like kind of like lower end.
Yeah.
Would you mean like this one is more CCR like?
Yeah, I think the way he's singing it gives me a little bit of like Fortunate Son, or like he's got that kind of rock and roll tone.
He's a real like old rock and roll guy. Like if you hear him talk about things, or like, I mean, he's a piano player too, right? So like he's got that like classic like, you know, Tutti Frutti, Great Balls of Fire, like that old era rock and roll kind of styling a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think that definitely comes through on this.
I think so.
We talked about no sugar tonight, my coffee and my tea. No sugar to stand beside me, no sugar to run with me. So I think to stand beside me, Sugar is the person, right? Sugar is a pet name you can have.
It's gotta be. Like, you're not getting Sugar, but also they're not with you. You're alone. Yeah.
I think that's what stands in this, and no sugar to run with me either. So he is alone.
But the chorus to me does sound like you're kind of saying one thing in 4 lines.
Yeah, like exactly. And it's like it's no sugar in every sense of it, man. It's no sex. It's none of the fucking that good white powder. Yeah. It's no person. It's all the above.
But it rhymes and it's catchy.
Yeah, it's great. Dat and doo-dow, dow, dat and doo-dow. We go to verse 2. In the silence of her mind, quiet movements where I can find, grabbing for me with her eyes, now I'm falling from her skies.
Yeah, it's a lot of good sounding lines, and then when they spread them out, they really let them like sit with you. Yeah. And it just makes me realize that like I heard them and was like, that sounds really cool, and then did not think about it. Like, I just was like, no, this is cool enough to just let it be how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, I never really pieced them even together. I was just like, in the silence of our mind.
Like, that sounds cool. Yeah. That sounds so cool. What does it mean?
I don't know. Don't care.
So it doesn't matter. So I do think
there's no sugar
I do think there is a little bit of that to the song. Like, it's not the deepest song. It's like, I kind of feel lonely sometimes.
Yeah, but this...
Yeah. But it sounds cool.
It sounds cool. To me, it reads as if he has done something to fall from grace here, right?
Right, because he's falling from her skies. So it's kind of like an ending. Something's ending.
Mm-hmm. And that's why even in verse 1, he's like, there's a sudden darkness, but I can see. He's like, I know what's going to happen. Like, so it's almost an impending breakup is what's happening.
It does seem like that, yeah. And I guess that fits in with what he saw, like no sugar tonight, but like it's because of this like fight. And maybe it's just like the way you feel after a fight kind of thing.
Yeah, I kind of picture, and I do of course have the coffee and tea in mind, but them just sitting at like the dinner table. And that's where he's like kind of piecing this silence from her. And he's like, okay, I can tell from the way she's looking at me that she wants to fucking kill me. You know, she's grabbing for me with her eyes.
Oh, yeah. And
so it is like truly, he's like, it's fucking done, dude. He's like, I'm falling from her skies. There's no recovery from this.
Right. Or at least he's dreading what will happen as a result of it, kind of thing.
And that's, so he's in this moment of dread, and he's realized there will be no sugar tonight, which is this is like a 2-act play, kind of. This is the first act, which is like the pre-breakup or like outburst moment, and then we don't get the actual outburst. We flip over to New Mother Nature Part 2, which is the aftermath.
Ah, I see. So we skipped the middle.
Yeah, and so we come into this strange scenario in which Jocko says yes, and I believe him when we talk about the things I say. She hasn't got the faith or the guts to leave him when they're standing in each other's way. You're tripping back now to places you've been to. You wonder what you're going to find. You know you've been wrong, but it won't be long before you leave them all far behind. Also
a cool sounding verse in a lot of ways. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's like maybe some... Yeah, there's some like drug stuff in there. Like, is Jocko a drug dealer? Maybe. It just sounds like he's talking to someone about a thing that happened, right? Like, and Jocko's like, oh yeah, totally, man. And I do like that line, I believe him. So he's not like, I don't think he's just trying to, agree with me and get me to shut up kind of thing.
Yeah, and that does kind of, like, I can read that as a drug dealer interaction where this guy's like, hey, I'm going to buy some weed from Jocko. And then he's like, Jocko, my girlfriend, she's so mad at me. And it's just like, she should just leave me. But instead we're just going to fight. And Jocko's like, yeah, man, it's $20.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of has that sound. And they're like, I believe him. But like, he does believe him.
Yeah, he believes him. For whatever that is worth, he believes Jocko.
Yeah, when he says like, yeah, or yes, I guess. That's just such a funny line. And then even when we talk about the things I say, like they're just talking about stuff. Like,
yeah, his stuff. Yeah. They're talking about the narrator's stuff.
Yeah, which is like, or presumably like she and him. Like he's talking about himself, but is he him, or does he know someone else who's in this situation?
Yeah, that's when it gets like stranger, and then him becomes you. And so yeah, in terms of like. We go from I to him to you, and are those all the same guy?
Yeah. I don't know. But it's very... I guess the other thing is, like, this is 1970. So, like, we get the tripping back now to places you've been to. I don't know if they're talking about, like, actual drug use, or it's just, like, slang, because it was 1970. Like, you probably wrote it in 69, Like,
it's, like, he's looking back. It could just simply be you're looking back on, like, what you've done, places you've been to. Yeah. Or it can be you're falling back into old habits. You're tripping back now to places you've been to. You wonder what you're going to find, even though you're doing the same old shit, right?
And it's like, and then, of course, you've been wrong, but it won't be long before you leave them all far behind. Also, just like, hey, you've made mistakes in the past, but that's in the past. Like...
Yeah,
that's all I from that.
That I got that one as like this ties directly to the why he's getting no sugar tonight. He's like, you fucked up.
True.
And then if you buy into the drug dealer interpretation, but it won't be long before because he's gonna get blasted. He's gonna get super fucking high.
Yeah, or like, I guess maybe the more positive outlook, which would be like, it's just a speed bump kind of thing. Like it's just maybe it's a fight, but like. You can get over that.
Yeah, and that's maybe why he's saying this line. She hasn't got the faith or the guts to leave him. He's like, well, she's not gonna leave. Like, it's fine. The mistake's gonna go away.
Right.
I know I was wrong, but it won't be long before that's just over.
Like we'll get over it, and then we'll be past it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means by faith.
Faith in herself, maybe?
Maybe.
Because it takes bravery to leave somebody, to leave a relationship. Like, that could be it.
Yeah, so it does kind of come across as, like, this story being told, whether it's about the narrator or not, about two people who are in a relationship that get in a fight, basically.
Yeah.
And, like, it seems really bad, but they seem pretty confident that it won't just end.
Yeah, but then I think if we take that, the spin on verse 2 is that things do not go well.
Yeah. True.
But before that,
and then the new Mother Nature. Yeah, the chorus.
Yeah, we got to figure this out because it's the new Mother Nature taking over. It's the new splendid lady come to call. It's the new Mother Nature taking over. She's getting us all.
She's getting us all.
She's getting us all.
Yeah, good. Like, what is the new Mother Nature? I mean, we talk about Mother Nature as, like, natural instinct and, like, how people act kind of thing sometimes. And it's also a bit of this, like, new age hippie sort of thing of, like, there's new thought patterns. So, like, is the new Mother Nature just the idea of, like, like an empowered woman, basically, who's like, actually, no, I deserve better.
Yeah, is this like a fear of feminism kind of thing? He's like, it's this new Mother Nature. Yeah. It's the ladies, they want to vote now, and now I got to treat them nice? Like, is it something like that? Is it, a hippie reference to being like, well, now everybody's smoking weed and mushrooms.
Like our minds are being open kind of thing. It's like the age of Aquarius.
The age of Aquarius, brother.
Yeah.
And because it is, like what takes away from the fear version is it's the new splendid lady come to call.
True.
Which implies some allure.
Yeah, and maybe he's trying to say it's a positive thing, you know? It's like people are learning to love themselves. It's kind of vague. I don't fully understand it, I'll admit, but I could see these interpretations as potentially working. Especially when you talk about Mother Nature, you're talking about this like fundamental thing. And it's the new Mother Nature, which is maybe suggesting there is no, like, because I would suggest maybe there isn't that much of like a natural order beyond the one that we create, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe they're trying to say that.
Yeah, it's like, is you talked about like a cultural turn, like it's this new Mother Nature. It's something basic, something, primal or like origin based is changing, apparently. And it's getting us all. She's getting us all.
She's coming for us all, yeah.
So it seems to be a force that enacts on all of us.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something we talk about sometimes when we talk about like changing social norms, and we're like, yes, maybe these conservative, more, I should say reactionary types who are like fighting against that. Like eventually they will die out, basically. And then the change will be able to move ahead, which is probably not a guarantee. But is it saying that? Is it saying like, don't fight it because they're coming for us? Or is it saying like, watch out?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's totally clear, but I don't know the Guess Who to be like reactionary or anything, so.
No, it doesn't seem like that would be the take. Yeah. I wonder if this is again in the eye of this kind of breakup scenario. He's like, well, like this is the cycle, man. Relationships live and die, and then the new Mother Nature, the new splendid lady takes over. We all find something new.
True. Maybe it's not a cultural thing. Maybe it's just the idea of like life is changing in this case.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, it comes for us all. She's getting us all, man. Things are going to change. Yeah. Regardless of what it is, it's provocative. It gets the people going.
It is.
And then in verse 2, Jocko said no when I came back last time. It's looking like I lost a friend. No use calling because the sky is falling, and I'm getting pretty near the end. A smoke-filled room in a corner basement. The situation must be right. A bag of goodies and a bottle of wine. We're going to get it on right tonight.
Yeah. So now Jocko is not saying yes. Jocko's saying no.
Yeah. He's turned. He's fully turned from verse 1.
Now, why is Jocko saying no? Well, I'm trying to figure out, like, is this narrator overreacting to Jocko saying no, or is it just because it's a song we don't have time to elaborate? And he's like, well, I guess I can't get along with Jocko anymore.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning that in this part of the song, there is a sort of frenzied nature to the delivery of these lyrics.
It is a lot faster. I mean, compared to the first half, for sure. Like sure. No Sugar Tonight.
I guess because this part's like, Jackal said no when I came back last time. I was looking like a lost friend. Like, there's a little more like panic, and like the lines themselves, the sky is falling.
Sky is falling, getting near the end. Like, that's apocalyptic stuff. Something is ending.
Yeah. And of course, he specifically mentions in No Sugar Tonight, now I'm falling from her skies.
Yeah.
So we got like a little crossover there. And of course, the last half of this verse is just painting out like a drug abuse scenario.
Seems to be. Yeah, and it's unclear. I saw some suggestion, like, I mean, getting it on right tonight. It's like, this is like another woman, and now he's like drowning his sorrows in wine and whatever a bag of goodies contains. Pills?
Yeah, pills. It could just be weed to like smoke. It could be mushrooms. It could be
anything you can keep in a bag, which it turns out is a lot of stuff.
Fun-size candy bars.
Fun-size candy bars. Fun dips, baby. Fun dips.
Fun dips.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, we're going to get it on tonight. Does that refer to, him and a woman or him and the substances?
Which I think it doesn't matter that much. Like, you can envision it how you want to. Not
necessarily, yeah.
It could be like a rebound fling, and it could be he's just getting high.
Yeah, I think I like it being a just getting high because like now his presumably only friend in this what maybe is like an awful breakup is this dude Jocko,
who's like not really his friend. Who's like, stop telling me please about this stuff.
Yeah, he's like, I don't fucking care about this dude. He's like, it's not worth the $20 you spend on weed. Yeah.
Even in 1970s dollars.
Even in 1970s dollars.
Whatever that would have been.
Yeah, who can say? But yeah, he's in this panic scenario. No use calling because the sky is falling. Because that line also speaks isolation to me versus getting a woman of the night or even just a woman at night.
Yeah, and has internal rhyme, so it's a good line.
Yeah, that's a good line. Yeah, it's full of good lines here. Smoke-filled room in a cornered basement. Unless he's in like it must be his basement, right?
Could be. He could be alone. He has a bag of goodies and a bottle of wine. He's going to combine alcohol and drugs and see what happens.
And so, yeah, we're going to get on right tonight. And then that line leads right into because it's the new Mother Nature taking over. Yeah. So he's trying to force an internal change by getting fucked up.
Yeah. Maybe he's just trying to accept the new Mother Nature, the new order of things.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we get that. And then we get the repeat of both verse ones.
Both verse ones. A very cool, like, canon part, kind of. Or counter melody. I don't know. They combine them.
Yeah, which is like the best evidence that these songs are like meant to be together. Yeah. They do combine them at the end.
And like the way, because, I mean, the No Sugar Tonight for like lines are so spread out and the other ones are so squished together, you really get to hear that contrast between the two.
Yeah. And the sort of, the difference in speed, because they are basically done at the same rate they're done the first time they do them. But they just slot into each other like really nicely.
Yeah, sounds very good.
That sounds very good. And yeah, of course, that first verse is lonely feeling deep inside. So yeah, him just describing this feeling of loneliness, which if we take it as like a breakup piece that leads to like a drug binge, kind of slots in really nicely.
Yeah, and like the way, each line kind of feels like it could be relevant to each other, like lonely feeling... Mm-hmm. Deep inside, like combining with the other. Yeah, it's like maybe not 100%. Maybe it's just that they're placed next to each other, and it's that like, it's the film thing where they show like a blank face intercut with other images, and then like they're like, look,
right, and that
how the blank
colors the blank face for you.
Like it's expressionless, but like if you show different images before and after, it makes it feel different.
You'd be like, oh, they're happy because there's like puppies next to it, or if there's like fire, you'd be like, they're scared.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, they're completely unrelated, but we've placed them next to each other, so it implies this or that. So there's like this kind of, you get that here, and I don't want to go too into that because I don't know how well that stands up if you really think about it, but like it gives you that feeling when you're listening to it.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it puts the two halves of the song together. Which one, as just like a piece of pop music, is a good move because we're treating these as one track. Is like, well, here they both are. You kind of get the best of both worlds, and I do think that it allows you as the listener to kind of look for the connective tissue. There's a bit of poetry to the song, like we said. The connection is not like explicit as it is in a song where it's just a whole song. There's no slash in the title.
Right.
But I do think like this verse alone makes a strong case for these songs being one.
Yeah, I mean, it's so impressive how well they work together.
Mm-hmm.
That it's wild to think that they were written completely separately, and just by chance were written in the same key. Like,
yeah, like that's a lot of great coincidences that line up into a pretty solid piece of music.
Yeah.
And of course, we end on the dat and do dow dow da da dow outro after the New Mother Nature chorus. So right down to the end, we're linking these two together,
which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool, and that's why for a long time I don't even think I realized that these were two different songs.
Yeah, it definitely remember because just listening to it on the radio it might not have clicked, but then I think it took me until like seeing the name on a CD kind of thing, like the track of like, oh, it's a Slash.
Yeah,
interesting. And then even then, before this week, didn't really like listen for the specific lines between the songs of where things were combined and not, because it all flows very well.
Yeah, and let's get into this music, because the one thing, the cheap trick they used to connect it is just that cool guitar intro.
Yeah, which seems like it would be clunky, but it sounds good enough that like you don't care.
Yeah, and it kind of gives it this stage play like 2-act like vibe where it's like, okay, we're switching out the set pieces.
Like, all right, now we like stop the song basically.
Yeah,
play the intro again. And just like do that whole intro again like it's a completely different song that we're starting, which again you'd think would be clunky, but maybe it's just because I've heard it enough times, but it doesn't sound that way to me.
No, and it's a good piece of guitar work. It sounds really nice, so you're not upset to hear it again.
True, it does sound good. Yeah, so what does that sound like? Well, I mean, it's an acoustic guitar playing that that riff, and then like an electric guitar kind of comes in as well. So they're sort of playing together, which is also kind of what happens with the songs as well. They're
that's right,
together.
baby.
How about that? And that's kind of the intro, and then it picks up. That acoustic guitar starts to strum.
Yeah, you hit the rhythm of this. The bass kicks in. Yeah, just great tones on everything here.
I was looking up the band members. The bassist, because the lineup changed, but the bassist at this point, like once Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings left, he like kept going with the band, and he like put a band called The Guess Who together. I don't even think he was in it. But they were just like performing under that name. And I think like if you look at the Guess Who, they've been releasing albums until present day, but they're just a different band.
I love a different band story where it's just like, well, we just kept the name and now we're the Guess Who.
Yeah, except they're still going. Like they have a 2023 album.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. That's insane.
2. Oh, this is a single. Never mind. But yeah, anyway, very, very funny. I'm pretty sure he was involved in that, but there was like some legal battles around who could call themselves the Guess Who, to the point where Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings. That's why it's called the Burton Cummings Songbook. I think.
Right.
They couldn't call it like the best of the. I don't know. Well, it has Guess Who songs on it. It has Randy Bachman songs, and then it has PTO songs. So it's them together and separate. But
we talked about that with the band When in Rome. They had a similar.
Oh yeah, because like all the band members wanted to keep using the name for different projects.
Yeah,
which is funny.
That was bizarre. But yeah, that bass kicks in.
There's bass in the song. It's very nice.
There's bass in the song is where that was going. The drums roll in. This is, like you said, kind of old school rock, even like in 1970. It's real classic feel.
Yes, definitely. Like this, particularly the No Sugar Tonight part is like very straightforward. I mean, it's very 70s or like late 60s, early 70s, that kind of era, right? It's like
that like turning point.
Yeah, it does feel transitional almost, especially if you compare it to like Led Zeppelin, which went for like a harder sound, and I think the 70s tended to go for a harder sound after this. But this is a really cool like midpoint, I think.
Midpoint, yeah, because I think like 70s like harder sound and also like more prog rock coming through.
Yeah. Which this kind of has
maybe a little bit of that.
Just because it's like 2 songs. But it's not like proggy. It doesn't sound like prog rock, really.
Yeah, you're not getting like virtuosic instrumental sections. The changes aren't that huge, but there is just like a dash of that, like a hint of some of those ideas.
But I like this guitar, this like kind of a little fuzzy guitar. Because comparing it to the title track of the album, American Woman has this like really nice like fuzz guitar part in it.
Yeah.
And this has like obviously similar elements because it's the same player in the same album. But like it's kind of like it's not like super distorted, but it's a little bit. It's just like a little overdriven kind of.
Yeah, just a touch on there.
Which is it's a good sound. That's again like not like as distorted as things would become, but like it sounds nice. And then particularly once you get to the chorus, when it just starts to kind of like play chords.
Yeah, that's when the electric guitar really comes through, because that first verse is pretty clean sounding.
Yeah, it drops out after the intro, and then that first verse is just like strumming with a lot of the, I mean, drums are like pretty straightforward. A lot of fills though.
A lot of fills, yeah, like just tight, solid fills, not these big, like heavy
actually, I say a lot of fills. It's just one in the verse, halfway through.
Yeah, I'm mostly like distracted by that bass, which is coming through so.
I know the bass is really great on this, actually.
Yeah,
some of the covers have like more bass, or like they'll move the bass part to the guitar or something, or like adapt the bass part for a guitar riff.
Yeah. But I think having it here, having it that clear, like there is something about just the tones on this first verse that give it that classic rock feel.
Yeah. Well, the recording quality feels very good, and we'll talk about another couple ones that
we'll talk about that pretty
feel
quick,
more of their time. But yeah, it's just that nice like little bit of overdrive. And what else happened? I mean, this like No Sugar Tonight itself is like very simple, I think.
Yeah, it's almost punk rock too, in terms of like particularly the chorus has a very basic like down out, bow now,
right, without ever really getting like aggressive. And then on the chorus, there's like more drums too. Like it kind of plays along with the guitar, right? Ta ta, and then like kind of
it's all about emphasizing those same notes.
Goes between like the toms for the guitar chorus drums, and then it will hit like a cymbal between there. Bump bump.
Yeah, so it's boom boom. Yeah.
And that's kind of it, because there's another verse, but it's very similar. Another chorus, also very similar.
Yeah, again, these are like two half songs that come together to make a whole. So even in terms of their like musical ideas, it's pretty bare bones.
Yeah.
We did kind of skip over that nice walk down into the chorus. That
that is very.
And you can
nice.
almost hear that overdrive, like hear the fuzz come in as it like goes lower down. And it's down out, and then it's No Sugar Tonight.
What a nice little bass transition.
Yeah, feels great. But yeah, like you said, second verse same as the first.
Yeah. I don't think it changes much. I couldn't hear changes. Other than that, like they kind of cut it back down again, like they go back to the strumming, which happens a few times. So they're almost like priming you for it. Like they do the dum 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 bum bum, and then like back in, and then just into the strumming, and then more of the song.
Right.
Whereas they do that again, but then, or more or less, like because that's also kind of the transition into the second part, although it drops down more in the middle between No Sugar Tonight and Mother Nature.
Yeah. Because, you run through these, you do a lot of dot and do dot dow, and then, you kind of ride that down into the like intro section again, which is now introing the second half of the song.
Yeah. It does it all. It is a little bit different. Not much, but like now's when we get the EP.
That's right.
Which should Burton Cummings. He's our electric piano player, because he's like the piano player.
Yeah, dog.
And you start getting that like da da da.
Yeah, they really fill things out too. Like it's that a good like a kind of sleazy tone for an EP. Like it's got a little bit of like grease to it.
Good. I really like this sound. It might be.
Yeah.
Like a jazz organ techno. It's always, I never know exactly what it is, but it sounds electric piano enough that I'll call it that.
Yeah, I'll call it that. I'll allow it.
But like the other thing, like it's a new like beat, right? It's a little more, we're a little more backbeat focused now, which is also interesting because we're literally on like the back half of the song.
That's right.
But New Mother Nature is much more like, it's busier. Like we already talked about, the lyrics come faster. The music is like that too. We're playing on more of the beats. It's not as spread out. And then like there's that kind of backbeat accent, which is a cool way to like change it. It's almost like not jazzy, but like almost heading in that direction.
Yeah, something about like there's a jazz element, especially when you're getting keys in there, that can kind of push you in that direction too. But yeah, there's a clear shift, and it works really well.
Yeah, is it almost like a shuffle kind of rhythm or something like that? I'm not 100% sure on my rhythms.
No, I'm not the rhythm man to go for this, but like, but this is where you really get the fills coming in too, because the drums are like ba boom boom ta, ba boom boom ta.
There's a lot of fills. Yeah. The chorus is all drum fills.
Yeah. And that chorus is also where the keys get to do a little more singing. Like they start hitting a few more chords and things.
You get that cool, again, similar like descending thing that they did with the guitar before, but it's like on the EP instead. So it does feel like it's kind of guitar EP. But then once you get into the chorus, you kind of get like interplay between the piano and the guitar. So like you get that like the guitar kind of does this like backbeat chugging, and then like between, I don't know, they're both playing. It sounds good.
Yeah, they are both playing, and we're dealing with a little electronic sound. We've got a lot more crunch in that guitar than we did in the No Sugar Tonight section.
Yeah, you get that. Yeah.
So yeah, they play together really nicely, and yeah, that the guitar's doing that like bounce, 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 and then you got the keys doing more like a play on that thing they've been doing in the verse, but a little switched up.
Very nice, very nice. And like I said, drums seems to just be doing fills the whole time.
Yeah, just rocking fills and when a drummer's doing it just right, which they're doing here, it's like it's seamless.
Yeah, and it like
just sounds
just
good.
Subtle enough. Like it's not super duper duper complex fills or anything, but it's nice.
Yeah, and it's just keeping that energy.
Yeah. I like it. And then they do another verse similar to the previous verse.
Yeah.
Is it different from the other verse? I didn't think so.
No, I feel like, again, we're just kind of doing we know what the verse and chorus sound like.
Right.
Knock them out twice.
And they don't, like, as much as they build kind of between the two halves, each half kind of does its own thing. And then, of course, they do both of them, which is what's coming up next. So we get another verse and chorus. The second chorus maybe has more cymbals, but also...
Yeah, again, when you're working with
it's
drum
all
fills,
fills,
it's like...
so it just might be chance. Or the natural thing to do for the second one. But then, of course, they have that double verse. So you get the first verse of both songs at the same time, which is awesome. We already kind of talked about that, how you get that cool like contrast. They feel like they slot together very well, and then you get the more spread out and then the more squished together at the same time.
Yeah, it's got a great rhythm to it.
And then actually the other thing about this verse, they simplify the instrumentation a bit. They don't do the verse, like more complex verse sounds from New Mother Nature. We're back in No Sugar Tonight because it's more of the guitar strumming. There are electric piano chords, but they're not playing that lick.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's just a straight.
Exactly. So, which I think makes sense because they've made the words. There's so many words.
Yeah, they've upped the complexity of the vocal melody simply by having two different tracks going.
Not getting too busy by using the simpler version of the instrumentation, I think makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then from there, it rips back into a pretty standard version of the New Mother Nature chorus. And then back into Dot and Doo Dot Dow with the No Sugar Tonight.
Yeah, a lot of that. Like a little bit of the kind of like ad-lib stuff. There's a few tracks of Burton Cummings singing and doing like adding little things in there. And then, of course, the other background line, which is Mother Nature.
Yeah,
sugar.
Nature,
This is like saying keywords.
Yeah.
Which is fun. And then you kind of get the more... I mean, this is No Sugar Tonight, right? Like the dum doo dum doo dows. And then you get the heavier guitar strumming from No Sugar Tonight.
Yeah. Down out. Yeah, and that's what takes us out. That's how you wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely. To fade out on that, I think that's a good place for fade out.
Hell yeah.
It's just a really good way of like melding these two songs together. I like the like simple complex split between them, but they sound natural when they put them together.
It's interesting how just being in the same key, I guess, can do so much of that work for you.
Yeah, I feel like they do more work, but being in the same key, it's got to help.
Probably helps, yeah.
Even like when you look at them more in depth, it's like, the first half is more downbeat focused, the second half is more backbeat focused, and like they still work together very well. I think that's a really cool way of switching it up.
Yeah, that they do shift so many what might be fundamental elements, and then it's like somehow it is both different, but also still reads as being part of the same overall song.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, very cool. Way to go, the Guess Who.
Way to go to Guess Who. You're not going to see any of that kind of intricacy in any of these cover versions, which we're going to talk about after this short break. And we're back. Talking about covers, starting in the same year as the original release here, 1970 with Gary.
And the New Travelers.
No sugar tonight, my coffee. No sugar tonight, my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to run with me. Dun da 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 dun da da.
I had to slide some of the dates around on these because I had them wrong on the playlist. This one is fine though.
This one is fine. You had Angeles and Steel Wool in the wrong
I'd Steel Wool in the wrong
right?
spot for sure.
Yeah.
Gary and the New Travelers. Who are these guys? I couldn't find much on them. They were a not that successful group, presumably. It seems like they had some
two
singles like in the 60s and 70s and didn't necessarily exist much past that.
Yeah, this is when we were talking about people who sound like recordings of that era.
That's these guys. Absolutely. These guys sound like even a few years earlier. Like, it sounds like they maybe got some old tech. But the way they're using it is a little bit... It feels like almost garage rocky.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like these are obviously it's obviously still the 70s, but this is like sounds more low budget, sounds more era appropriate. It also sounds more British. Like they sound like they have this like brighter sound, which often gets associated with British rock.
Yeah.
And it's
which also like kind of ages it in a way.
Yes,
because that feels more 60s.
True, it feels like kind of like mid 60s. We've talked about like the Monkees and stuff not that long ago, which kind of this is reminiscent of. I know the Monkees aren't British, but mid 60s. They're not British, right?
No, they're American because they got made fun of in the UK.
Right, and one of the guys was a big supporter of. Yeah. I was going to say MTV, yeah.
MTV, yeah.
But definitely earlier, like Beatles, kind of Beatles. What they do a lot is overload the sound. It's a very crunchy recording. You know, you can hear it on the drums, on the vocals, on the guitar. There's lots of like crackle.
Yeah. Even just that cymbal they have is like peak lo-fi action. Just like...
Oh, yeah. Every single cymbal hit, it's like just overloaded. So it's almost like kind of... I said garage rock. That's probably more era appropriate. I was thinking like punk, proto-punk, but I think garage rock makes more sense. It has
I think garage rock, because it has that home recording sound to it.
Yeah, it does. And maybe just because it's old stuff. Like if they had a recording studio, it wasn't the best equipped one.
Mm-hmm. It is fascinating because we'll talk about like recordings from like the same year where you can just tell like the biggest difference is like audio recording tech that they had access to.
Yeah. And
it doesn't make as big as a difference these days, but like when you look at back then, it's like, oh yeah, if you didn't have the proper gear, it's just nothing was getting through.
Well, I mean, we've talked about like a bit. We have in the past touched on like history of recording technology generally because we're not super duper familiar, but like we know, the Beatles helped popularize multi-track recordings and so on.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But like the technology was advancing, particularly at this time, so much that like you can really hear the difference between things that are contemporary. One of my favorite examples is if you listen to the Steve Miller Band album Sailor, and then you listen to the Steve Miller Band album Brave New World, they were made like a year apart, and they sound so different, like just quality wise. I'm like so impressed how different it sounds.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 6970 or 6870 kind of thing. Definitely recommend both of those.
I gotta listen to some more Steve Miller Band.
Yeah, I like that early Steve Miller Band quite a lot.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, these guys have a lot of kind of like unintentional crunch. If they maybe knew, and how could they know?
Right.
But like how we would be able to like use crunch as part, it's not a bug, it's a feature.
Right.
We might have a little bit of a better version here, but for me, especially on the chorus, there's just a lot of like bad crunch going on.
It is, yeah. I don't know if I would say it's like out of place necessarily, but I'd say overall, it's kind of a straightforward recording. And yeah, it does feel like maybe they just turned all the volume up, and maybe it's just this idea of like they wanted to sound more aggressive. And now we maybe know how to do that in a little bit more measured way. But back then it was like, fuck it, turn up the volume knob.
I guess, because then the other problem is if they want to sound aggressive, why do they sound like bright 60s British rock?
It was still 1970, I guess. Which is, I mean, at this point in time, there already was a Led Zeppelin. There
always was a Velvet
Underground.
Although not widely listened to.
True.
So,
what's the other one?
Like
The Man Who Sold the
Black
World?
Sabbath, like The Man Who Sold the World. There are plenty of examples of hard rock in existence by 1970.
Just feels like maybe they're a little bit early. Like they need like a producer in 1972 or 3 to really get what they want out of this song. But that's kind of it's kind of fascinating, but I'm not too surprised they didn't last.
Yeah, it's very strange to have two single releases 5 years apart. Their first one's 1965, and then this one 1970, and then they just disappear. And
they don't do like a ton with it. They only do No Sugar Tonight. Structurally, it's basically the same. There's a little bit like their verse. They add a lot of hi-hat. Their second verse has this guitar arpeggio they add to it. And then they put a little guitar solo in as they're fading out at the end. But that's kind of their additions.
Yeah, we go out on a guitar solo. That's like the new thing. I don't know. Maybe if these guys got back together and recorded it with modern sound and a modern producer, we could hear what they were trying to say.
Yeah,
but
it does
for
feel
the most
like
part, this is just crunched out. Like it's deep fried. But people with a little bit more in their studio budget, the Shirelles in 1971.
Shirelles. I mean, I do have Steel Wool as being 1970.
No sugar tonight in my coffee. No sugar tonight in my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to run with me.
You got Steel Wool as 1970? I have them as 1999.
Yes, I had that. So I had to do some digging.
Oh, that would explain why I saw that like 70s video of them at some Great American Bandstand.
Yeah, exactly. So I do believe Steel Wool is up next, 1970. I originally saw 1999. I thought they were a throwback act.
Yeah.
But I did a little bit more digging.
Makes a lot of sense. Tell me more.
Can I find my digging? Steel Wool. All right, so Steel Wool. Thank you, Discogs.com, for having this information. Because when I found Steel Wool and they had aliases. So it's 4 guys that are, like, they originated as this garage rock band from New Jersey in the 60s. Bo Charles, John Charles, Bill Crandall, and Jimmy Walker are listed as the members. I don't know about this recording specifically. Looks like some of them weren't necessarily. Anyway, as this group called the Knickerbockers. And it's my understanding, basically they become like studio musicians. Right. And sometimes they get together and record stuff. And this is an example of that. They've recorded under the name Lodi, and also Steel Wool, as well as the Knickerbockers. And this is just a recording they did with, if you look at the album, it's called Happy Together, The Very Best of White Whale Records. Which is why at first I thought they might be cover. I thought maybe the Turtles had a cover because Happy Together is the Turtles song. White Whale Records is the Turtles they
Late.
were, I don't know if they formed the label, but they were on the label. So like
Right.
this is just a bunch of recordings that from White Whale Records. That's who they worked for. They were like studio musicians as far as I could tell.
Okay.
So this is from the 70s.
This is like the most info we've ever got on like a
I know.
musician band.
And then because like looking up the band Steel Wool, there is a current band called Steel Wool. They are acoustic rock
garage
reborn,
punk band.
which is not this song at all. They specifically say they're not the old band Steel Wool.
Oh my god, that's useful.
Anyway, but yeah, this is a group of session musicians that just like sometimes recorded songs under different names.
That makes so much sense because, like, I got Garage Punk Band from 1990.
Yeah,
And I was like, this is.
Yeah. At first, because this CD, this Happy Together, Best of White Whale Records, the year on is 99, right?
Yeah.
So it seemed very strange. The other fun fact about this, it was produced by George Tobin, who later managed and produced Tiffany.
Oh.
Yeah, we've I think mentioned the name before, but.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, the song. What's this song like? I'll tell you what this song is like. They took the riff from Jumpin' Jack Flash, which is probably also from something else, but this is what I know it from Jumpin' Jack Flash exactly.
Yeah.
And they put it in this song.
I did. Now that I just kind of focused on the 2-note punch, but yeah, that after yeah. So what is maybe a blues classic?
Probably. I mean, it's from a Rolling Stones song, so most likely they didn't come up with it first. But that's where I know it from.
Yeah, and like big crunch on that, the guitar doing that.
So we definitely hear, I mean, it's the same year as Gary and the New Travelers. I would also say it sounds more of its time as compared to the original. But this is clearly like higher skill players and higher budget recording.
Yeah, if not by much, like they just know how to not blow out the instruments
on every single drum hit,
on every single thing. Yeah, because like I saw that like American Bandstand or whatever it was video where they're like, we'll have tracks for the kids to dance to, and we're gonna see which one they love the best. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense in that context. It feels very much of that era. You've got like an organ on this, which is like kind of like poppy, like a little more pop inspired, drawing on like the Beach Boys and things like that. That plays through this, that it like fills in the back with some chords.
Yep. Playing chords.
You've got a tambourine for some percussion in here. Yeah, it's very like pop 60s.
Oh yeah, it's definitely like, I mean, I'm also thinking of like Ohio Express, like these bands that are kind of not real bands, like they're some producer tried to put together a pop song very specifically.
Yeah,
like just for that reason, they're like, we could put out a pop single and like get some session musicians to become a band, but like we don't have a band that's going to tour it.
Yeah, they're just like, we're going to put out a single, people love it. If we need to get a band, we'll worry about that at that point.
Exactly. And like there will be a group of people on top of the pops or whatever. Maybe they're playing their like they won't be playing their instruments. Maybe they're the band who recorded originally, maybe not. We'll figure that out later. We just want a single out. Like we want to press this wax.
Yeah. And that's what this is.
Yeah. It almost like in some ways feels like an update of the Gary and the New Travelers version. It's a little, I don't know if it's faster, but it feels a little punchier, you know? It has the new riff on it, which is a classic riff.
It's a great riff, man. Hey, it's not their riff, but it's a great riff.
Yeah, it just ends up kind of feeling like a more active version of that. Like supercharged monkeys or turtles. And then, it has that like old school sound on it. So it's the tambourine. That's also like the organ and the tambourine. I'm like, that sounds like that's old school.
Really timestamp it. And they're like, boom, 1969.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it sounds decent. I was kind of like going between this one and Gary and the New Travelers. I was maybe giving Gary and the New Travelers a little bit too much credit. So I was like, it's almost like proto-punk. But I think this more polished version makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't like, for me, Gary and the New Travelers just sounds like you didn't know how to use your recording equipment. Yeah, it just sounds like feedback. It blows out so many moments on that track. Whereas these guys, like you said, they sound like pros. It sounds like pop. It sounds sensible, functional. if you took out the Guess Who as the origin and then told me it was Gary and the New Travelers as a demo and then Steel Wool, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is a 60s pop song that came into fashion and then got covered by other people.
Yeah, it is believable because it sounds older than the original for sure to me.
Yeah, it definitely does. But yep, Steel Wool, not bad. Pretty solid effort. Now we move to the Shirelles in 1971.
But I can see no sugar tonight in my coffee, no sugar tonight in my tea, no sugar to stand beside me, no sugar to roll with me.
So, a girl group from New Jersey. Started back in 1957.
Yeah, that's so it's Shirley Owens, Doris Coley, Addie, Mickey Harris, and Beverly Lee.
Yeah, and looking them up, like, I don't know the history, but there is a, hang on, let's see if I can find the page. They do have a claim. They've been credited with launching the girl group genre, with much of their music reflecting the genre's essence. That is a quote, probably just from Wikipedia. That sounds believable to me. I know that claims like that are often debated, you know?
Yeah, because you can often point to like 3 other groups that also took off at like the same time.
Right. And it's like they're contemporary. And we talked about this when we were talking about Raga Rock.
Yeah.
And like using, in that case, like sitars in rock and roll. Like these, and I guess the development of psychedelic rock, like the attitudes of the time lead you towards a conclusion, and like everyone is experiencing the same thing alongside each other. So like just because one person did it first doesn't mean they like invented it whole cloth.
Yeah, I like the term popularized when it comes to these kind of formative moments, because you can say like, well, this is the one that people kind of attach to.
Right.
But that's just how it became popular.
Yeah.
There was like other examples of this that had some traction or were earlier.
Yeah. And especially nowadays, like things stay in these like, and they probably back then, but now we can see it more easily, like in these like small cultural movements or like small communities before they break out. And it's like, oh yeah, this has been around for me for years, but like now it's popular.
Yeah. And see, like, here's where it broke out and people started finding the source.
Yeah, but like it's been around forever. It just happened to like whatever pop artist decided they liked it and put it in a song, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And in this case, that sound is girl group / Motown. Like it's...
Yeah, they're not from they're not on Motown Records, the record label. They're not from Detroit, but it's a very similar style.
Very similar style. So we open with a bass on this and some like hi-hat drumming, a nice real low bass.
I feel like the guitar, it's like kind of the guitar strumming part.
Yeah.
But also the bass part from the original.
And we bring in the brass pretty quick.
Yeah, this brass, the drums are going like they're going 16th notes.
Yeah. Yeah, they like to kind of, it's a little like funked up, like even when that rhythm guitar comes in, it's like they chop it up a little bit. There's a little staccato in there.
Very good sound, very good style. Little more syncopated, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
I think. I gotta double check and make sure I'm using that word right one of these days.
Hey, it's just a good word, man.
It's a good word.
You just use it like spice. You throw it in every now and then.
Just replace syncopated with zhuzh.
Yeah. We're just going to syncopate this a little bit.
Another word I probably don't understand as well as I should.
Hey, man. Who needs to understand? You just zhuzh it.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
zhuzh something.
What? Who needs to understand it? Just zhuzh.
It's a feelings word, not a definition word.
Exactly. I do like the guitar sound. They get a good wah sound on the guitar, particularly on the chorus.
Oh,
Very nice sound. Yeah, good stuff.
Bringing in real like spy music vibes.
Yeah, that kind of stuff, which I mean would be contemporary to this, I think.
Absolutely, it would.
Excellent stuff.
And some orchestral elements too. We got some strings taking us into that chorus,
and then more horns. Like you get so much. Like right at the end, the horns really pick up.
Yeah.
So they are following that melody. particular, like they play it like at the end of the first chorus kind of thing, which is where they would sing it in the song. So they kind of like take over that part.
Yeah, that's the
They
after
do sing
doing,
it as
of course,
well.
some det and do da dow. Yeah, they double down on it.
What else do they do in this one? They say her. No, they say his instead of her.
Yeah, they swap them, they swap them, the genders around.
Yeah, which is like one case in the silence of his mind, like and his eyes.
Yeah.
Okay, three,
Silence.
but it's all in one.
Yeah, but before that, they say after the horns do the dot and do dot dow, they say right on, and then 2 times they say so sweet.
Ooh, so sweet. Very sweet. Yeah, this is also like very old school. Again, some of these just like sound older than the original.
Yeah, you could put all 3 versions we've talked about before the original, and I'd be like, wow, the Guess Who do a great cover of this.
Great cover of this Shirelles song or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, so it's different old school things that are probably sound contemporary, but I associate this as an older sound. But it's just very danceable. This one
very danceable, yeah. There's some great grooves on all the instruments here.
And really gets pretty crazy at the end.
Yeah, they really cut loose at the end there.
Lots of just that brass. Brass helps.
Yeah, brass helps a lot. And it's great production value on this. Like, we've kind of ramped up production in these 3 covers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. As much as it has like an older sound to it, the recording quality is definitely higher.
Yeah.
Especially compared to Gary and the New Travelers. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Keep shitting on Gary and the New Travelers, but it's very rough.
I mean, hey, I didn't ask him to release that. I didn't force him to. It's not me, bro. Not my problem. But yeah, that's this one. A nice kind of like Motown-esque version.
Yeah.
To summarize it. But we got to talk about the opposite of that, which is Angeles in 1984.
Angeles, yes. Another American rock band. This one...
Yeah, named after the Angeles National Forest.
You can imagine. They're from Los Angeles.
But not named after the city, named after the National Forest.
Surely they're both named after the same thing.
Yeah, you would think so. Angels, I suppose.
Angels, yeah. The Angels?
The Angels. Their big claim to fame is that in 1981, they co-headlined a couple of concerts at the Troubadour with Motley Crue.
Okay. I've never heard of them before.
No, they're the only album of theirs that has a Wikipedia page is this first one. So they're not like a big deal.
No, I mean, formed in 77, so and their debut album was in 84, and I feel like looking through or just listening to this, it's very straightforward hard rock.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
I don't see how they could have stood out with this sound. It sounds like a lot of other music.
It really does, dude.
Yeah.
Even like his vocals, like the O's and the like little sugar.
Yeah, in the intro, like little sugar, and it says "well" spread across 9 syllables.
Oh, yeah.
I counted 9.
Nice. It's all parody, man. Like,
it's so like pure hard rock.
Yeah.
And like I would say, yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, not unimpressive, but like just that. That's all it is.
Yeah, you'd hear this at any bar in Calgary if you go on an open mic night. Like,
so like maybe just because they were relatively early on, they got some recognition. Because when did you say they co-headlined those?
81,
which is before this.
Yeah,
I mean, so maybe as a live act, they're really good.
Yeah, maybe, or they were, like you said, just kind of early on the scene, but never developed.
Yeah, because they really like this is such like just hard rock to me.
Yeah, it's this like kind of like very high like trebly guitar that's doing this. Also, its own kind of like classic blues version, like based on the original. This it's like the bass line from the original, but kind of altered.
Yeah, as a kind of.
Yeah, they get that there too. Yeah.
And then like the band joins in, "No Sugar Tonight," doing like the backup vocals, which we didn't talk about too much in the original. Do they have that? Yeah, because you get the backup vocals, "No Sugar Tonight," "No Sugar to Stand."
Yeah,
No Sugar Tonight.
you do get that. And this one, it's just like, it's not quite punk rock like chorus, but it's not good enough to be like music. Like it's to be regular music backing vocals.
And like even, I don't know, the guitar's so simplified. There's only one guitar now, which is fine.
Yeah.
But it's just like this distorted rock guitar that's really not much to talk about.
Yeah, it's such a thin noise on it.
Yeah.
Like it lacks presence.
Sometimes
the bass is
they throw
there,
in like little like fast passages, which is very standard for 1984, I believe. Yeah, it should be by then. Like you get a little trill in the second verse, for example, but like I don't know. Also, the verse, they kind of, I don't know. Yeah, it's just that hard rock hair metal sound. That's really all I can say about it.
Yeah, but not even done like well.
No, it's not that interesting. They do have a guitar solo, but again,
they do have a guitar solo.
It's pretty typical.
Yeah.
So it does end up extending things, but it's not like there's still no new Mother Nature in this one. And honestly, does the playing? I don't want to get too nitpicky, but does the playing sound a bit sloppy to you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Kind of comes across that. Maybe that's part of their sound. I don't know, but like
maybe that is, and maybe that's why you chuck the distortion on, so you can say it's like an artistic choice.
I don't know. Yeah, and like the singer, he's fine. You can hear he goes up sometimes and does the like kind of higher wail. So it gets up pretty high. I assume that's like that falsetto wail kind of thing. But yeah, it just sounds like not as interesting form of your Vince Neil or your what's his name? Axl Rose. Or the guy from Poison whose name escapes me right now.
Brett Michaels.
Brett Michaels. Yeah, like it's just that. But I don't know, without the like personality, and maybe Brett Michaels doesn't deserve that much recognition. But you know, I don't know.
Yeah, but if you can't even reach Brett Michaels' levels of personality, what are you doing in hard rock, right?
Just not into this. It's just very like, it's not my favorite style of rock and roll anyway. Like I'm not really into Motley Crue or Poison, like, or Guns N' Roses is fine, but like, you know, it's not my favorite
vibe
style.
Is right. There's like a time and place for hard rock like that.
Yeah.
And when it hits, I find it really hits. You're like, yeah, dude, like this is big, it's huge.
Yeah, so maybe I'm a little less forgiving generally, but yeah, this just did not do it for me.
I think it's just a bad version of it, man. But we're about to listen to the best version of music that Italy has to offer.
Oh, absolutely. You know, she's considered by many experts one of the most important and expressive female voices in Italian music.
That's right, folks. You guessed it. It's Mia Martini in 2014.
Mia Martini.
No sugar tonight in my coffee. No sugar tonight in my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to walk with me.
In defense to that quote, she's got a pretty massive Wikipedia page.
Yeah, and there are two sources on that by many experts.
So yeah.
Anyway, it's just a funny quote. That's all.
It is very
but it sounds
funny.
like she actually is pretty big in Italian music.
Yeah.
And although she passed away in the 90s from a drug overdose.
So this is like a posthumous
this
release.
We have this as 2014, but yeah, she died in like 95 or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's a shame. But yeah, she's the only one who realized that the two songs need to be here.
Yes. This one actually, and it also has like the intro from the original, which we kind of skip over on all the other ones.
Yeah, no other one has that, but she does it with like a kind of reverbed up guitar.
Yeah, and that electric guitar. And then into, again, still electric guitar kind of strumming. Then there's...
Yeah, really, we get in that staccato energy this time, though. Down,
yeah,
down,
kind of like palm muting sound.
down.
And then the electric guitar plays two parts. So you get one part that is like the strumming, and then I think the bass line as well.
Yeah, that down, 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 down,
yeah, exactly.
down, down.
And that's kind of the sound of it, you know, the guitar, basic drums, and then her singing. But it's pretty expressive singing. I will give it that.
I'll give her that. Yeah, she goes from like this real softness to putting a little nastiness in it. Like she's all right.
Yeah. So she does sound good. I know I like to talk shit about quotes like that on Wikipedia pages, but like I could see why an expert might consider her an expressive female voice in Italian music.
Yeah.
I cannot comment on the important side because I have no context.
Yeah, no context for her importance, but hey,
definitely
her singing sounds pretty
expressive.
good on this. Yeah, for sure. She goes up high on the chorus. She's got some backing vocals there, possibly her own.
Yeah. I didn't have a whole lot to say about that first half.
I think so excited that we get to New Mother Nature on this version. I was like, oh, shit! Like, somebody's doing it.
Yeah, which is nice. I wish I had picked, because there's a cover of New Mother Nature by the Friends of Distinction, which I kind of wish I had put on. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, that might have been nice.
There's also... And I didn't know this at the time. There's a cover of No Sugar Tonight
under a different name, right? By a reggae artist.
Yeah, it's called. Can't find it. Lonely Feeling.
That's right.
By
Nikki Thomas.
So unfortunately, missed out on those covers, but those would have been good ones.
Those would have been great. Let's talk about this New Mother Nature half here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do the breakdown, they do the picking back up, same structure and everything. But yeah, you get that really like backbeat heavy thing going on, and like lots of drums, lots of cymbals, like constant cymbals, and like lots of drum hits on that New Mother Nature.
And like even she's like harsher with her vocals here.
Leave a moment, talk about the things. And like still got that kind of staccato feeling. But it's definitely. And like they got like kind of a wah effect on the guitar, so I wonder if that's like a Shirelles reference,
of
some kind.
She just likes a bit of that waka jawaka.
Yeah, maybe because it does sound like kind of a heavier version overall. But what it made me think of, it's kind of like jazz style as played by rock musicians.
Yeah.
A little bit, like just the way the drums in particular are played. I'm like, if that was like subtle, I could hear that in a jazz track, but it's like punk.
Yeah, they kind of punk it up. I am kind of curious as to what her regular genre is, if she leans more jazz, perhaps.
She seems like an interesting performer.
Yeah.
This Mia Martini character. But
despite having like the fakest Italian name ever.
Well, yeah, that's a stage name.
That's a stage name if I've ever seen one.
See, where is she?
But yeah, they're like real harshness, real emphasis on that staccato. They're hammering those fucking cymbals in this.
Rita Adriana Berti.
Too much.
Too much. Mia Martini. Domenica Berti. All right. Where were we?
Yeah, a great attitude on this back half, dude. It's
absolutely.
just like it's got the energy. It's a real change up from the first half, while still carrying on this idea of like, what if the Guess Who was a little more staccato? That's kind of like the main
the staccato, like the
line,
expressiveness, very nice. And then, okay, I have a note here. This one is similar to the Shirelles, not because she is a woman, but because it really cooks. I wanted to read that verbatim just to make sure.
Just to be you had a prepared statement.
that I wrote it a few days ago, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it when I said it out loud.
Oh, okay, that was for yourself.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, that one's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, and we do a kind of big grand walk down. We like dan 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 bam 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 bam. That's your ending on this one. With some wah going crazy. Yeah. Huge energy on this.
That Waka Jawaka, good stuff.
Yeah. Somehow a harder rock version than Angeli's.
Yeah. Angela's is just, I don't know. Just didn't really hit.
That's not good.
And this one has some attitude, you know? Whereas that one feels like, I mean, I know they've been around for long enough. Like they formed in 1977, which is early enough, but it just feels like they're just doing the same thing everyone else. Like they're just copying.
Yeah, they're somehow going through the motions in 1984.
Yeah, it just sounds like they're copying everyone's homework.
Yeah.
Anyway, I shouldn't complain about that anymore because we're talking about a different one, but
Yeah, we're now talking about Eve of Destruction
So we are.
2014.
No sugar tonight in my coffee. No sugar tonight in my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to roll with me.
Have we talked about these guys?
The American ska punk band from SoCal? I don't think
the
so.
album artwork looks familiar, but it's possible that like they got taken off a playlist at some point or something.
That could definitely be.
But I couldn't find a song they had actually done that we covered.
That we
They
covered.
don't have
Yeah,
that
I
much
don't.
material.
I feel like I would recognize this name.
Anyway, I don't know. But yeah, ska group.
Ska group, ska punk.
They got the ska punk sound, you know? It's that clean guitar. They're playing like kind of a different version of the bass line riff.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun little riff.
Yeah.
With some horns things.
Yep. Which I believe the horns based on the rhythm guitar from the original, like the acoustic guitar.
Right. Yeah, as we get into the actual like verse and
I guess later on. Yeah, because at the beginning of the
yeah, it's just straight stings.
So it's a lot of that. I think they kind of like it ends up getting a little bit of like a swing on it. The way they play
which
it.
gives a little like of that like unlucky dude vibe to this song.
It's a little down
bit
on
of
its
like
luck.
little down on its luck, which I think plays well with the lyrics.
Yeah, and I think like the way because the original has the like it's like feels really spread out and broken up in the verse, it kind of fits with that because you have the with the like slow fast kind of swinging sound.
Yeah.
When you space things out, whether you come in on the long beat or the short beat, kind of varies, and that ends up I don't know. It like lengthens some pauses and shortens some. So like, or mostly lengthens.
It gives it this uneven feeling.
Yeah, and it's just like a little bit more of that pause, and like it's cool sound. And then just like lets the rhythm kind of like sit and like seep in, if that makes any sense at all.
That might make a little sense.
It probably does.
Somebody's gonna believe it.
I guess
They'll
it's
hear
like
it and
that's
they'll
what
say
it feels
this
like
makes
to
sense.
me. If you don't get it, whatever.
You don't get it. Hey, that's on you.
That's your fault. I have no problems.
I take no responsibility for this. Pretty classic, like ska punk vocals. Nothing crazy going on here.
Yeah, to the point, I didn't love the chorus.
Yeah.
I feel like it loses or doesn't gain some energy. Like, I feel like it needs to be punched up a bit, but it sort of stays the same when we hit the chorus.
Yeah, I will agree with that. It is a bit one note once we set everything
I
up.
like the horns taking over the dum-da-dum-dum-dum-dum bit.
Yeah.
But other than that,
it
did the first chorus in particular felt a little flat. The second one does okay, but it almost feels like they should have done that earlier on, to me.
Yeah. Like, because that's like even what makes the original so good is like we get the expression of this anger, this fear, this horror, and it's big.
Yeah.
But yeah, he kind of just rolls through it like it's just more verse, and it does. It's not interesting.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. Wasn't a fan. Wasn't a fan of that. Of course, other than that, there's a saxophone solo about a minute in. I do like that one. It's not like too long or anything. It's a nice sounding sax solo.
Yeah, they managed to add character without bloating this to like 4 minutes of just no sugar tonight.
Yeah, which is nice. Does not stay its welcome.
And they do like verse 2 is a breakdown verse to start out. It's just the bass
true.
and vocals.
That's true. They break it down.
And then like horn stings.
And bring it back in and then do the actual like decent chorus. So yeah, I feel like I like this one. It's not bad, but I do feel like that first chorus kind of needs work.
Yeah. And I like the singer, kind of just a working man. He's fine. He's not like exceptional.
Right.
Like, and especially I'm hearing in this breakdown verse, I'm like, if this dude really had some chops, we could be thrilled, this could be a very good version. But yeah, I think that's one thing holding it back.
It's too workmanly.
Yeah, it's just not, he's just, I could pick any number of singers to fill in for him and it wouldn't lose anything.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, it's a solid take. It could just be a little better.
Yeah, decent, but not that exciting.
But I mean, we got to go back to New Jersey,
We
dude.
do.
We got to go
Back to Jersey.
hear
Asbury
Frankenstein
Park.
3000. Asbury
Greetings
Park,
from Asbury
Frankenstein
Park, New
3000, 2020.
No sugar tonight in my coffee. No sugar tonight in my tea. No sugar to stand beside me. No sugar to ride with me. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
So these guys are a hard rock band, and their only constant is their frontman and chief songwriter Keith Roth.
Keith Roth, yes. This is kind of like we have another like hard rock version
Yeah, real bait and switch on this one.
because this intro makes it sound like it's going to be like electronic, right? And the name too, Frankenstein 3000,
Yeah, or like electronic or like gnarly hard rock,
Yeah.
like
metal,
like
right?
really heavy. Yeah, metal.
But so the intro is like it's the backup vocals from the chorus, but just played on its own with like this really
With
like it's really like crackly.
Yeah, the sort of like record
Yeah,
filters. You get the
dusty
pop and
old
crackle.
records. No sugar tonight, no sugar tonight, and it's just backup vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get into the song, and it ends up being pretty straightforward after that.
Yeah, it's like a cleaner version of Angeles.
I'd say a stronger version than Angeli's. Like they're doing
for
a better
sure.
job. It sounds better.
We've got more low end.
Yes, which is very nice. Ultimately, it's still somewhat generic hard rock sound,
Yeah,
but it's just
But there is
done
cowbell.
better than Angeli's, and there's a lot of cowbell.
tons of cowbell. But yeah, definitely done better than Angeles.
Yeah, so stronger version than that. Yeah, I don't think like compared to Angeli's, this is well done, and I still don't think it's has that much of an identity of its own.
No.
Even with that intro, and I feel like it's a bit of a bait and switch, like you said.
Yeah.
Sounds like it could go somewhere else, but it doesn't really. And then they end up just doing like kind of getting through it quickly, and then doing a bunch of like choruses for the outro, as well as a guitar solo.
As well as a guitar solo. It was kind. I would have liked this a bit more if maybe just we kept the backing vocalist as the main vocalist. Because then you at least get a little contrast between her vocals and the hard rock instruments, the crunch.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it just again like more solidly put together, but still fairly uninteresting.
Yeah.
Comparing it to our other point of hard rock comparison, which is Angeles.
Which is Angeles. Yeah.
Much
not a
stronger
great week
than
for
that,
hard
though.
rock.
No.
Yeah.
But if you like cowbell, this is definitely one for you.
Yeah, if you're Christopher Walken's character in that old SNL skit,
SNL skit.
we got a song for you, baby. Otherwise, I give this one a miss.
We do have those backup vocals, so it is a little bit of a different sound
Yeah,
from the other ones. at
she
least.
is present.
Yeah.
And then later on, she gets a little more prominent.
Does she just get turned up? Or does she actually get like an
Yeah.
ad-libbing part?
I'm trying to remember if she gets her own section. No, she's just a little
I
louder,
don't
I
remember
think.
her getting her own section.
Yeah, we go out on like a ripping guitar solo.
True.
It does feel very like hard rock by numbers, but just like these guys at least
done
colored in the
fairly well.
lines or something. Like, yeah, just a little better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But also done in 2020, so it's pretty moldy oldie.
Absolutely.
That's the songs this week, which means it's time for our final verdicts. We got 3 categories today: the worst version, the best version, and the most bitter version. Which has the least sugar content in it,
Sugar.
or needs it the most, I suppose. Alex, what's the worst version
Worst
of this?
version of this, I mean, there were 2 standouts for weaker ones, but I definitely think, like, no contest, Angeles.
I think you might be right.
Like,
Jealous.
Angeles. Angles. It's just, I don't know, it just feels really weak. It's so generic sounding, and it's just doesn't have like the energy or the spirit to be that. Because we've talked about times where we're like, oh, this sounds like platonic ideal of this, whatever genre. But in this particular example, it's like all that kind of, but without the good parts. Like,
Yeah, without the ideal
without
part.
feeling good. So just kind of weak all around.
I agree. I think that's got to be the worst, because like if I squint through the Gary and the New Travelers version, I can hear what's like a sensible version, if nothing else.
Yeah, at least they feel like they tried and you can hear what they're going for. I don't know. I guess I know what Angelus was going for, but maybe I just don't like that very much. I don't know.
No, I think that because we've had like you said, versions that sound like the platonic ideal of hard rock, and we've reviewed them favorably.
True, it's not always
like the version of Hallelujah we talked about that was just like straight up like cliche, and like loved it. Like didn't want to love it, but fucking loved it. This version is just not good. Angeles has just biffed it on this one. So yeah, I think they're definitely the worst, and I don't think your distaste for the genre has anything to do with that. But what's the best version of this?
The best version. I mean, there were some cool versions. In terms of versions that were really strong, I feel like at least the most interesting one was Mia Martini. I think I got to give it to Mia Martini just because the other ones all had like a little something that was like, I don't know about that. Like it's fine, but it's not good. Like I do think Steel Wool did a good job. As well, and the Shirelles as well. The Shirelles have a really strong version as well. But I think Mia Martini's is just like fun enough, well, also kind of weird enough that I just really enjoyed it.
It has a huge advantage this week by being the only version to cover all of the song.
It covers New Mother Nature, and having both of them together enhances it.
And just like there's good tones on that, there's great energy in it, and she is an expressive singer, the most expressive Italy has to offer.
I'm told,
and
definitely one of the most.
Definitely one of the most. So I think Martini's got it a lock in this week, easy choice. But Alex, who's the most bitter?
I want to say Frankenstein 3000. I want to say, maybe I shouldn't be assuming things about Keith Roth.
If you're one man in a like rotating band project, you're maybe not the most lovable guy.
Yeah, I have some feelings. I have some assumptions about him based on the history of the band, which I just learned about and really can't say anything about. But like, especially for like something that's this much of a throwback without really being anything interesting.
Yeah, being so by the book.
He's like being good enough, like skilled enough, but just not having anything else going for it.
Yeah. That's a fair assessment. And like he'd be so bitter because every time he tries to book a show, they're like, "So you're like heavy metal, right?" He's like, "No." And they're like, "So you're dance music?" He's like, "No, it's just like kind of hard rock." Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, we don't need that here." He's like, "Fuck." Great choice. I think Steel Wool, as a group of studio musicians who had to work under several different names, the real like always in the background type characters are like, "Fuck, when's our chance, man? When's our version of No Sugar Tonight going to take off?"
It's not the Knickerbockers.
Yeah, it's on Lodi. Like, we're betting it all on Lodi, which at least has a CCR song about it.
About being stuck in it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good omen. Song about how much it sucks to be in this place. So I think Steel Wool might have a little bitterness in him. But that's our final verdicts. If you got different opinions, similar opinions, want to talk to us about a version we didn't talk about, hit us up on the app formerly known as Twitter, #CoverMePod, @SnakeyMe, @SomeAlexWiseGuy. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, suggestions for future episodes. You can also email those to us at covermepod@gmail.com. Talk to us there. Be sure to rate and review us. We're on all the apps, We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Amazon Podcasts, Podurama, Podbean, Pocket Cast. All the hit ass. Tell your friends, families, neighbors, loved ones about us. What you can really do this week, what you can really do this week is I had something for this, and it was drug related. Oh yeah, if you're a drug dealer, just talk to your people about this. Just anytime you're selling drugs, be like, "Hey man, you listen to Cover Me?" And they'll be like, "Why?" Because nobody ever fully listens to their drug dealer when they're talking to them, but they're forced to sit there with you. You have a captive audience because you are selling them drugs.
Use that to our advantage.
Start pitching Cover Me to them. And that's going to get the word out there in the community that needs to hear it most. That does it for today's episode of Cover Me. And as we always say on Cover Me, she hasn't got the faith or the guts to leave them when they're listening to Cover Me.